Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra, thrilled to guide you today. Let's start by getting acquainted, sharing the chat who you are, where you're joining us from, and your views on the importance of modular mail design. Don't hesitate to drop your questions as we go because we'll have a Q&A session to wrap things up. So, welcome everyone to our webinar. Today we will dive into the modular mail design philosophy with SEMrush leading experts. Today with us, Taylor Rafa. Taylor is the mass email team lead at SEMrush, a leading SaaS platform for digital marketers. She brings a decade of experience in email marketing, from freelance collaboration with small businesses to impactful roles within the tech and public sectors. Passionate about newsletters and design system, Taylor combines her love for creativity and strategy to drive impactful email campaigns. Hi, Taylor. Nice to see you today with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Also, I'm happy to introduce Mark Van Gils. He's an email marketing specialist at SEMrush. He has experience in multiple industries and companies across the Netherlands, mainly focused on email automation. He brings extensive knowledge of the technical and development side, always looking to improve, scale, personalize, and of course, automate as much as possible out of the most beautiful marketing channel there is, email. Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here. Excited.
Yeah, and last but not least, I'm happy to introduce Dmytro Kudrenko, founder and CEO of Stripe. He is an experienced entrepreneur with a 25-year background in software development, including 15 years focused on email marketing. He believes that coding emails is not something that marketers should do. They should focus on marketing strategies instead. And this is where the modular email design comes to the rescue. Am I right, Dmytro?
Yes, indeed. And today I would like to talk about for us to talk about the modular email design. It's not in the general way that like everybody is like understand, because of modules are not just like pre-saved HTML fragment you can reuse. It's kind of philosophy. It's completely new approach. And honestly, for me, it's a bit of pain to understand. It's not even a bit, just a big pain for me to understand that email design is far behind the uh, normal web design, because of email developers always have to prove that they also have the right to create a beauty, flexible, interactive email. They have to always be not like marketers and programmers to implement some ideas. And I think today we will discuss also about the way how marketer can be returned to marketing, not only to programming. And for our understanding, modules unblock a lot of opportunities for us, for marketers. And yes, uh, I would, Alexandra, please moderate.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's start. Taylor, it's your turn to speak about generic module management.
Yeah, for sure. So, as Alexandra said, I'm the mass email team lead at SEMrush. And I wanted to start out just by giving a few words of validation to everyone who's listening to the webinar. I know people may be joining with various degrees of maturity or different types of email design systems, and it's something that's constantly evolving. So whether you're starting from scratch or you're trying to overhaul, we're all starting new, starting afresh, and change can be really exciting, but also a bit daunting. So my hope for this webinar is that you'll leave with some great ideas and be willing to sort of like step into a conversation about this with your team and your company. So some common challenges. We'll get the worries out of the way in the beginning. First of all is shared vocabulary. So I think, Dmitry, you offered one definition of modular design, which is a great definition, but it's always important to really check with the people around you, with your direct team, with your managers, other stakeholders about how do you define email design? What sort of words are you really using? And what does it mean to each person? Also take stock of different skill sets, recognize people's strengths, and don't try and copy and paste solutions from others. So really try and test things out, work incrementally, and see what works for your particular situation. Another thing that I would say is a challenge is resource constraints. So for sure, be practical about where you're at right now in terms of time and money, but also think ahead for scalability. Set yourself up for future growth and success. And then finally, lack of alignment. So you want to make sure that you're really taking time to bring everyone together on this shared vision and provide regular updates along the way. So again, start with the basics. What is a module? Start with this conversation here. There's a lot of different definitions that you'll find for this. So it's not a moment to tell that colleague to go Google it. You want to make sure that it's an active conversation that you're both participating in. But my personal definition is that modules can be reusable, can be easily combined together. They're designed with purpose and they're adapted to your personal business needs. So why go modular? The benefits for sure are brand consistency. So you have ultimate control in a centralized location that you can sort of lock down certain elements and avoid making mistakes. Easy testing, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. What would you rather QA, right? Like 115 different types of snippets and modules or 15, right? So really think about the savings of time there. And then also cost savings. So if you have to reinvent the wheel every time, pay an external developer to make HTML for you, you have to think about what to request and what to build each time. Yeah, you can really save a lot in terms of time and money by going modular. And then also legal compliance. So again, with being able to have those things already locked down and up to date, that can be really helpful, especially for certain types of businesses where that's a real big concern. So where to begin? Here's just a few suggestions. You don't have to do them in order, but I would first start by checking your brand design guidelines. Do they exist? Do you have any? Are they email friendly? Then also take stock of your internal resources. Do you have design tools? Do you have a design team? Do you have a developer that could help you? And do you need to maybe work with other teams in order to get the data necessary to do personalization? And then maybe first look at other channels within your company. Does your social media or your blog have really great design inspiration in terms of templates? And then maybe look out from there to other brands. I'd also recommend to start simple. So you can always add more and iterate as you go. And then reverse engineer your modules based on your content, not the other way around. So this is going back to the point about not trying to copy and paste another brand's email design. Really think about what you want to promote and how you want to promote it and what templates you need that will work for that. So another big part of setting yourself up for success is being open to feedback from stakeholders and also from your subscribers. So off to the right is just a really nice poll feedback module that our email designer created for us when we did an overhaul of our email design system recently. So we can get direct feedback from our subscribers. This actually goes on to a form where they can give qualitative feedback if they want to, and then it's linked to a Slack channel. So we get directly whenever anybody fills this out, whether or not they like the email and why. And then there's also maybe a controversial opinion I'm going to throw out there, that there still is a place at some companies in some situations for bespoke HTML, right? So depending upon your company and how you're set up, we use all methods at SEMrush for building emails. For sure, the bulk of our emails are modular, but for those sort of one-off campaigns, we do have some email that is developed by an internal email developer. And that's actually a piece of feedback that we got from a subscriber which says, I just want to compliment the design of this newsletter. Whoever made it, it's beautiful, which was just really great to see that we have both. So again, we have a slide similar to this that's in internal presentations, and typically only the first two images you see are presented on the slide. And it's sort of a before and an after. But truthfully, we use all three in parallel. So it's true that the first email that you see on the left was every single email at SEMrush just a few years ago, right? And then once we got a modular design, we were doing the bulk of our newsletters that you'll see on sites like Really Great Emails in the middle here, right? And that is, I would say, 90% of the email that we send. But then maybe once per quarter, a couple times a year, we'll have that bespoke email that you see off to the right, which, yeah, just adds a bit of variety, which can be a really great touch in terms of your overall email program, depending upon the type of email that you're sending as well. So one question that I get a lot from people is, how do you measure the success? Because as we know, ROI in email can be like really notoriously difficult to pin down and track. So this is just one option to visually present email development timelines from going from slow to fast. So you can say, okay, for this type of email, we used to build it from scratch, coding the HTML, or we used to build it, in a different way with a snippet library. And now we've switched to modular design, and look how much faster this type of email is, created from conception to launch. And then finally, some practical tips. So again, on that note of bringing everyone along with you, I recommend creating guidelines with examples, instructions, settings, typography, everything you could possibly think of. And then also considering a parallel run or gradual shift from one way of working to another. So we did that. We had a parallel run with two different methods of building email, and that seems to work really well when you're trying to, bring a team along. And then I'd also recommend monitoring feedback and performance. A note on performance, I've seen it a lot, that performance may slightly drop at first, and that's okay, that's normal. You also have to bring your audience, your subscribers, along with you with that change. So I think a lot when it comes to newsletters, it's about consistency and habit building, right? So maybe after the first couple months, you'll actually see things really shoot way up in terms of performance, but it may drop slightly at first. And then keep auditing. So email clients change the way they render emails quite frequently. And you also want to make sure that it's still serving your needs. So I would recommend auditing the implementation on a regular basis. And also on that note, kind of plan ahead for a major design overhaul every 2 years, and potentially more frequent maintenance in QA in addition. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mark.
Thank you, Taylor. Your insights and practical tips were incredibly helpful. So, Mark, it's your turn.
Yes. All right. Cool. So I will just take off after Taylor's talk. I will be talking about smart modules. So we just talked about general, what is a module, but then there's also this trend called smart modules. So the first question will be, what is an actual smart module? I will talk a bit later about that. But the three words you see here are often mentioned when talking about smart modules. So we have the design, data, and automation. Design is also used in the general modules, modular design, but you can also make that a bit more smart. These words are mentioned probably at every company weekly, maybe even on a daily basis, and everyone wants to jump in and start using this. But what do you need for start using smart modules? I will talk a bit more about that. So next slide will be what makes a module smart. So there are several things that can be considered smart in this type of modules. The first one is automation. As I work in an automation team, this is something we do on a daily basis. And using smart modules can automate your email production, actually. So if you're doing a lot of newsletters or just emails in general. Yeah, it can take some time to do the creation of these emails, and Smart Module can really help here. So yeah, the word scalability is here again. Mass personalization and interactivity. This can all be done with a Smart Module. Yeah, there are several tools that can help here. Stripo is one of them, of course. Yeah, and there is also different ways to make a module smart. One of them could be scraping project pages, so using a URL from a website, putting it in a Smart Module, and it will grab the content that you need. Think about images, texts, links, button text, etc. There are tools that can really read a website, and this can really save time. You don't have to gather all this content manually. You can just use a tool and grab it. Yeah, there are also ways using API. Just use data that you already have in your own data warehouse. You can send it to a tool via API, and one of the most used ones is via a JSON format. Yeah, very general usage of that. Yeah, there's a lot of use cases where Smart Modules can really help. Of course, there's like transactional emails, let's say order confirmation or abandoned cart emails, where there's a lot of different content every time. This can be really helpful if you automate this process and you have this data coming in automatically, so you don't have to like prepare them in advance. But it can also be used for marketing emails, of course. So if you're doing product newsletters, especially when you do a lot of like segmentation or personalization in your emails, yeah, really start considering using Smart Modules, because it can save you especially a lot of time. Yeah, and that's the big takeaway. Yeah, so Smart Module will make it more dynamic, less static, and makes it scalable. The next. So where do you start? Taylor already mentioned that. It's really good to just take one step back before you start doing it. There's a lot of things to think, to consider before starting. First thing is data quality. There have been several cases in my past as well. Before starting automation, first do a data quality check, because the data is very important here. Yeah, the data will fill your emails, fill your modules, so make sure that it's correct. The easiest example I always use is just starting with, for example, your first and last name personalization. That can also be put in a Smart Module. Just make sure that you have this data and that it is correct. So I have seen cases where first names would be like in full caps, or the last name was also the first name, and things like that. So just make sure that you do this data quality audit before. This can be done internally if you have the resources, or do it externally. There are definitely companies that can help here. Yeah, consider the costs involved. So of course, using Smart Modules or modules in general, it takes some time to set up. Time is money. So consider the costs that are involved, and also look at which tools you might want to use here. Yeah, find the right audience for your automation here. Yeah, sometimes there can be like a request, an external request, like, hey, can you start automating this thing? And just make sure that you're doing it for the audience that makes sense, so that it will actually bring something to your company. So save time or some extra revenue, and just don't do it for a very small audience. Automation is really useful, especially for big audiences, to have a big scale. Also think about the ROI aspect. So look at your cost, but also, yeah, so as I just mentioned, what will it bring back to us? And yeah, do you have the right skills in-house? Do you have people, developers, email marketers that can do this? Or do you need some help from, for example, external tooling? Here's an example of one of the Smart Modules that exist. This is from Stripo itself. So this is where we can pull data from an external website, so scraping the data, as I just mentioned, which can really save time building the email. But there are many options out there. Yeah, and everyone uses different ESPs, of course, so it can also depend on the tool you're using. But there are always options to start using modules, and Smart Modules in this case. So I have one use case that we have in SEMrush. We have the SEMrush App Center, which contains a lot of different apps. And when we were asked to do some marketing emails for this, I really was thinking, okay, I see we have multiple apps already. Yeah, let's make this as scalable as possible, because we don't know what the future might bring us, but we do know that there are already multiple apps in our app center. So that's when I started looking into the modular and smart email design here. So this track actually only has 11 separate emails that are filled with the data we have. We currently have 39 apps implemented in this track. So we have the data separately from the emails, and the emails are filled with the data based on an app install that the user does. Yeah, and this resulted in some nice numbers. So we have almost 500,000 emails were sent in this track since the launch, of which 300,000 are personalized based on the app that was installed, which is really cool. And this percentage is actually growing as we are implementing more and more apps in this track. So 1 week ago, this used to be 37 apps in this track, and now it's 39. And it doesn't take us more time to create these emails because they're already there. It's modular. We only have to gather the content and connect it to our track, which is really cool. And that's a nice use case, I think. So this is how just a snippet of the how the data will look of this of this app center. These are just 2 apps you see here. So we gather the data in this script here, and then just based on the app install, it will grab the correct content. It's super scalable. We use some scripting. It took some time to set up, but now, it's saving us a lot of time. So eventually, it's definitely worth looking into automating these types of setups. If you know something might come in the future, that's what we did. We were looking at, okay, what might come in the future, and that's why we made it a smart setup. Yeah, right. So a little summary. First, look at the feasibility. Do you have the right tools or not? There's always options to use external tools for making your email smart and make it more scalable. Look at personalization. So nice sentence, don't forget to personalize personalization. So make sure you don't copy anything from the internet or other companies. Really think about what makes sense for our company and our customers, and start think about that and then move forward. So that is what it says. So pause and consider how to get the most for your company. ROI and impact, as Taylor also mentioned, just make sure you just don't do automation because you can, but make sure you do it because it brings you something. And then the main takeaway is it's making things scalable and very efficient, and that's something I really like. And less can be more in this case. And that was my part. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mark, for telling me this and for sharing such insightful information. Guys, I'd like to remind you to ask any questions you have. We will address them in the QA later. And now it's time for Dmytro to enlighten us with their presentation about interactive modules.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Taylor. You did a great job to preparing audience for my next part, because of I would like to speak based on what you said already. So if we have evolution of all frameworks to build email, and we all know that modular template design is not a future, it's what we must to use now, because of it saves time, it keeps standard, it keeps all your email consistent, and so on. But it's like a step forward. Like Mark said, it's smart modules. And I think it's even more. It's kind of philosophy. And in my understanding, it has to change the way how we build email. If we have a modules, I think old way we used drag and drop things to use not modules but standard elements, standard blocks like images, text, or some links, doesn't matter, buttons, but it's an old way. I think we have to use standard blocks only to build modules. and then use modules for the real design. And sometimes email is much harder than just standard blocks. Sometimes it's need to use interactive elements, and to write the quiz like this on the screen is a big work. You have to understand how do this interactive stuff in your questionnaire, and and the challenge that it works differently in different email clients. Some interactivity you can get using the AMP, accelerated mobile pages in email, AMP for email. But AMP works for Gmail and Yahoo and Mail.ru. But Apple Mail doesn't use it, but it can support advanced HTML and CSS. But Google doesn't support advanced HTML and CSS for interactivity. It means for creating interactive emails, in creating gamification in email, you always have to do a lot of codes, read a lot of books or blogs, spend so much time that sometimes it doesn't cost. So it costs so big price, so you're not ready to invest. And to send in the same time advanced HTML and AMP. It's a way to use this to send like multi-part email. You can send HTML and you send AMP HTML, and you will cover all your email clients to use interactivity. It's hard work. It's really, really hard work, and it costs a lot. And here I would like to use like analogy of rocket science. What is in common with modular design and SpaceX Falcon 9? Because of it also, you need to spend a lot of money and time for every launch. But if you use reusable modules, that every next launch makes cheaper for you, because of you just reuse what you already create. For example, if you have this module with a questionnaire, you can reuse it again and again when you need to have some question. But for that thing, you have to separate like a smart modules, but also provide the data. And sometimes you have to generate module based on data and reuse them very easily. So from the idea to the production, sometimes it takes about 10 minutes. You even don't need to test it because of module already tested. So we're working on this to simplify things that are hard to develop, but when you use modules, it's easy to reuse what we already created. And in a Striper, we created like a generator, like a library of interactive elements where you can create your module. It doesn't matter which system you use. First, it's free, and second, you can use any system for sending. But how it works? You go to the our site. We have in the products interactive gamified emails, gamification email builder, and there you can choose what kind of mechanic you would like to use. And for example, now it's a questionnaire. For questionnaire, you have just a form where you don't need to understand how to code. You just fill the data, generate HTML, and then save HTML into your clipboard and then put into your editor, or maybe you can save it immediately in a Striper and just test it, fill with the whole other content, and export to your system you use for sending. So modules unblock you for using advanced stuff without technical skills. And another thing I would like to highlight today is how modules allows to use AI for generating not just subject line or pre-header or some blog, but whole email campaign. Usually, email marketers don't do this because they cannot delegate email coding to AI, because of coding is very specific stuff. You have to understand so many things, and it's not documented. You always use some workaround to keep your email good in all email clients, in dark mode, in Outlook, all versions, sometimes when Internet Explorer shows your HTML content. But interesting thing that with module, you can control the code. You can control your brand guideline. You only delegate to the AI what he does great. He generates text very good. He generates like email brief, email assets. I mean, the data you need to use in your email brief using the template. So, example for webinar support, we have several modules, and you have a data you can put into this model, and you have AI that adopts the data for webinar description, introduction, and time in different format. The reason what you want to highlight in this email may be because of what you will get from the webinar, or why you have to learn this topic, or why this speaker is good to explain you the problem this webinar solves. And you have a brief, and using the brief and the data, it can generate email. So the way how it looks, you can create the module with the parameters. Like here, it's a picture, it's a position, company name, description, title, link to the landing page, and you can use this data to generate email for different assets. You have email template, you have set of modules, you have a brief for your email, and AI very easily use this data to generate whole email. So what you have to understand here, that it's better to keep not the big library of email templates, but big library of modules you reuse. And drag and drop modules, not blocks. In this case, you will never break your layout. You can reuse the things you created before. And also you can update all email easily when you update only module design, and all emails will be updated automatically. Use synchronized modules for this. And automate. Automate all you can automate. Use AI for this. I have a definition where we can use AI to generate emails. When we don't need to rebuild this email. I call it like mom's problem. When my mother told me sometimes it's easier to do myself than asking you to do something. So with modules, we can delegate much more than earlier to it. But again, you need to split the data and design and manage your email with modules. I think it's a great opportunity to change life of marketers, bring marketers to marketing. We don't need to have very skilled programmers in a marketing position. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you. And yes, I think it's time to return back to the stage, all of us, and answer the question if we have questions.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing such valuable knowledge. Так. So let's start our Q&A session. We have 3 questions. The first one, great guest today, by the way, Taylor, Mark. It's for you. Maybe someone will share their opinion on what future developments you foresee in modular email architecture and how teams should prepare for these changes. Who is willing to answer?
Let me start here.
Okay.
Future is my favorite topic about the future because of what we're trying to do to be ready for the future, to prepare, to build the future. And for this, how team should be prepared. First of all, maybe it's not very popular idea, and sorry, some designers and coders. I would like to split also responsibility. I think the designer in email sometimes a very big pain because of he just prepared design that's very hard to adopt, and email marketing is always in pressure. When it means that designer have to prepare like architecture of modules again. So when he provides how design should look in general, and marketer just manage modules. So it should not ask designer to write every email. The same with copywriter. I think we have to agree the things like email brief, not the email. We have to focus, change the focus from writing and coding email into high-level things about the idea, about the testing, about the hypothesis, about customers, about your recipients. And whole team have to be prepared to organize the collaboration. Who is responsible for what? Do less routine work and think globally and automate all stuff you can do. I think modules is a great opportunity to start here. So that's what I think.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question.
Maybe Mark and Taylor want to add something here, or maybe disagree because of I just.
No disagreements. Just in terms of the people manager aspect on how you can help prepare your teams or your colleagues. I would say getting people excited about the future and having time carved out during the week to really allow people to explore trends and upskill is really important. So I tend to say, 10% of your time, maybe like the first hour of the day is really popular for some people as they log on, look and see what's out there, look around, and then also, share with your colleagues what you found. And just sort of try and stay fresh and look forward. So.
Thank you. So the next question, can modules potentially replace email templates? I mean to build emails using collections of modules instead of the current method of using preset templates. Mark, Taylor, maybe it's your turn.
It's really cool because it's actually something we have done at SEMrush. So that's really nice. So we went from using the same structure, you can consider it a template every time, to making it more modular. So we actually built all these modules for ourselves that could be recurring to save time, but also give the email marketers the option to also make it like personalized or different every time. So we have made our own drag and drop modular email designer system template, as ever you can call it. But I think also it depends on your company, what are your demands, what do you want to do? Because maybe a template can be useful if you have the same email design every time. Then maybe it's easier to use a template. So it also depends on per company what you're doing. But definitely it can be replacing email templates. But it depends on your companies. So
thank you, Taylor.
I agree with Mark a lot. It's my dream to remove blocks. It's hard work. You mean how to what? I lost my idea because I read the next question. But I think yes. When you have a template, you create it only once. When you have a big library of templates, you need it to onboard, to start working with your design. You choose one, then you set your color schema, then you define your links to the social media, then you set your, wording, a lot of menu, configure everything. And then all other templates means nothing to you, because of you work with only your template every day for creating thousands of emails. But all the emails you would like to have different. It means that it's much easier when you manage like modules and reuse them. You know how most marketers do? They copy previous emails that looks like similar, like email digest. They copy the previous email digest and change it every time. I think it's much easier when you have a template and just drag and drop module and put with the data you need to reuse. Because of in this way, you cannot duplicate errors from the previous email to the new email. And it's hard to manage when you have thousands of emails and you always need to choose which one you would like to copy to continue your work. Especially when new teammate you have in a team, it's hard to give him a process. So I think, yes, templates is a old-fashioned thing. We have to change the modules.
Okay, thank you. And there is the comment that grabbed your attention, Dmitro. Hi, what challenges might team face when transitioning to a modular email design system, and how can they be overcome?
Do you want to add something here? Because of it's tricky, a tricky question. Because of you have to. It's easy to transform. First, like you have to measure what you do in your work. How often you again drag and drop blocks. If you do it a lot, please configure everything just to use modules. And when you have modules, you have to teach all your team to think in a modular design, in the blocks, in the briefs. So you can say, okay, we will do a webinar. So first it has to be webinar hero section, and then speaker introduction, and then this, and then previous webinars. It's a kind of brief. And then one day, okay, I want to show the design of my previous emails in a different way. You just change the module and replace it, keeping the same data. Just transformation should be step by step. It's not revolution. You can do it, improve every day, find your right set of modules.
Yeah, this question is really interesting because, yeah, there is the technical aspect, there's the way you think about it, and then there's the people aspect as well. So again, I would say don't discount the human aspect of things. Again, people might be really excited about this idea, but might just be a little bit hesitant to changing the way that they work. So really taking the time to figure out where people are at, having that shared vision and expressing it well. And yeah, again, things might go slower at first as people are adjusting to the new way of working, but don't discount modular design because of that. Stick with it, and yeah, think about what doors you're opening up for the future.
Yeah, and the important thing in a modular design is to manage permission. Who can change design of a module? And if somebody change the module, how it affects all emails that used in this module. You have to write additional like documentation, regulation, as usual, new process, new rules. And these rules is not really very, so you cannot go to the, I don't know, you can go to the SEMrush and ask the experience, but not so many companies who have this experience. Just let's do it together.
Yeah,
and have the process for this.
I've definitely gone through this growing pain at companies where people will get very upset and say, "Oh, you've locked this down," where previously I had the power to do anything. And so really, yeah, there's pros and cons. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. To sum up, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who joined us today, and my special thanks to Taylor, to Mark, to Dmitro. You showed us the power and flexibility of email marketing, so it's clear that modular email design is a game changer now, enabling marketers to focus more on strategy and less on the coding and the technical stuff. So remember, the insights shared today are just the beginning. So we encourage you to experiment with your email marketing, with your concepts, and to see the difference they can make. And if you have any questions, we are here to help you. And thank you once again for your time and engagement. Keep an eye on your inbox to follow up email with additional resources and recording of today's webinar. And as for now, goodbye. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, can I also add two words?
Sure.
That the links, if you have any question you want to ask directly, we will have in the description under the video in the recording. And yes, and Taylor, Mark, Alexandra, thank you for being in this event today together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.